At 6:15 in the morning on June 6th, 1944, a 20-year-old German soldier crawled into position behind an MG-42. His bunker sat high in the bluffs above Omaha Beach, 40 meters above the waterline. Concrete, steel, and angles. The Germans called it a wider stance nest, a resistance nest, not a fort, not a castle, a machine built for one purpose: to make a beach landing impossible. The air smelled like salt, wet sand, and diesel from ships that hadn't yet appeared through the fog. He checked the belt, locked the barrel, aligned the sights on the gray strip where sea met land. He had fired thousands of rounds in training. He had never fired at a human being. Below him, hidden in darkness and mist, the largest invasion fleet in history moved toward Normandy. Thousands of ships, thousands of aircraft, and tens of thousands of men who had been told the same lie every army tells before a landing. It will be hard, but it will be quick. From his position, designated WN-62, he could see nearly 2 kilometers of open sand, a perfect field of fire. No trees, no walls, no buildings, no mercy. Boxes of ammunition were stacked beside him like bricks. His assistant gunner knelt close, ready to feed belt after belt into the receiver. And then the sea began to change. Landing craft appeared as shapes first, gray on gray, emerging from the haze like drifting wreckage. He watched through binoculars and saw men packed inside, standing in rows, gripping rifles and straps, waiting for the ramps to drop. At approximately 6:30, the first ramps fell. American soldiers spilled into the surf. 60 pounds of equipment each: helmets, packs, ammunition, radios, wire cutters, explosives, everything they needed to stay alive, stacked on top of their bodies like a sentence. Many hit water too deep to stand. Some never surfaced. And now they were visible. There was no cover on the beach, nothing between the men in the water and the guns in the cliffs. He squeezed the trigger. The MG-42 didn't bark like other machine guns. It didn't chatter. It screamed. A continuous tearing sound, so fast the human brain couldn't separate the shots. 1,200 rounds per minute, 20 rounds per second. The weapon didn't feel like it was firing bullets. It felt like it was ripping time. In the surf, men fell in clusters. In the shallows, bodies stacked where the tide pushed them. The first wave tried to move forward, then backward, then nowhere at all, pinned by something they couldn't outshoot and couldn't outrun. Over the next hours, that bunker would help turn Omaha into the deadliest beach of D-Day. And the gun that made it possible, the weapon Allied soldiers would nickname Hitler's buzzsaw, had a story almost nobody expected. Because the MG-42 did not come from a legendary weapons house. It didn't come from a master gunsmith. It came from a place that had nothing to do with war. A factory that made lanterns. Not the romantic kind. Not the antique kind. Pressed sheet metal lanterns. Mass-produced household products made by stamping flat steel into shape with hydraulic presses. And the man who led the design didn't begin as a soldier. He began as an engineer obsessed with production. Because Germany's problem was never only firepower, it was scale. In 1934, the German army introduced the MG-34, an extraordinary weapon for its time. Their dream was simple: one universal machine gun that could do everything. Light machine gun on a bipod, sustained fire on a tripod, vehicle mounts, anti-aircraft, one weapon, one system, one supply chain. On paper, it was genius. In practice, it was a nightmare. The MG-34 was precision craftsmanship, a machinist's weapon, parts milled from solid steel billets, tight tolerances, complex mechanisms, skilled labor at every stage. Each one took around 150 man-hours to build. Each one consumed strategic steel alloys Germany didn't have in unlimited quantities. Each one demanded the same kind of high-skill workers the regime also needed to make aircraft engines, tank gearboxes, artillery systems, everything a modern army bleeds through. Germany could fight with the MG-34, but Germany could not fight a long war while trying to manufacture the MG-34 in the quantities it needed. So in 1937, the Army Weapons Agency asked an urgent question: can we build something just as deadly, but easier to produce? Contracts went to expected names, established arms makers. And then, strangely, one contract went to a company most Germans didn't know existed. Metall- und Lackwarenfabrik Johannes Großfuß. A sheet metal factory. A lantern factory. They had never designed a weapon. They had never built one. Which meant they didn't carry the assumptions weapons experts carried. And that was the point. The project was led by a mechanical engineer named Werner Gruner. He wasn't a battlefield veteran. He wasn't a famous gunsmith. He specialized in manufacturing efficiency. How to take something complicated and build it cheaply, repeatedly, fast. The others approached the problem like traditional weapons designers. Refine the mechanism, improve performance, perfect the machine. Gruner approached it like a production engineer. He asked a different question. Not, how do we make a better machine gun? But, how do we make a machine gun that factories can vomit out? He began by learning the MG-34 the only way that mattered, by handling it like a soldier. He took a machine gun course, trained alongside troops, fired thousands of rounds, watched how barrels overheated, how belts jammed, how dirt ruined precision mechanisms, how field maintenance really worked. Then he returned to the factory and made a decision that sounded like heresy. He would build the next machine gun mostly from stamped sheet metal. Not because it was elegant, because it was fast. Machining removes metal. It creates waste. It requires skilled hands and expensive time. Stamping presses metal into shape in seconds. Flat sheet goes in. A three-dimensional component comes out. Minimal waste, minimal finishing, and it can be done by workers who are trained quickly. Weapons experts laughed. They said stamped metal would crack, warp, fail under stress. A machine gun cycles violent forces again and again at speeds that turn mistakes into explosions. Gruner built it anyway. Critical parts would still be machined. Barrel, bolt, high-stress areas. But the skeleton of the gun would be stamped, riveted, spot-welded, industrial, not artisanal. And to make the mechanism work reliably at extreme speed, the design used roller locking, an elegant solution that delayed bolt opening until pressures dropped. A mechanism that would influence weapons designs for decades. By 1939, testing showed something that shocked everyone. The stamped gun wasn't weaker. It was tougher. It tolerated dirt and debris better than the MG-34. Its looser tolerances, usually seen as inferior, made it more reliable under abuse. Where the MG-34 jammed, the stamped gun kept running. And then the numbers landed like a hammer. Half the labor, roughly half the raw materials, cheaper per unit. But the most terrifying number wasn't cost. It was rate of fire. The new gun ran at around 1,200 rounds per minute. Some variants even higher. German doctrine wanted suppressive fire. Maximum bullet density in the brief seconds an enemy exposed himself. A higher rate of fire meant more bullets in that window. More bullets meant fewer survivors. To survive its own speed, the gun needed one more invention. A barrel change system so fast it felt unreal. A lever, a side hatch, hot barrel out using a glove, fresh barrel in. 6 seconds. A machine gun that could keep screaming. In 1942, it entered service as the MG-42. And once soldiers heard it, they never forgot it. Not because it was louder, because it sounded wrong. A normal machine gun fires in bursts you can count. The MG-42 blurred into a ripping roar, like cloth tearing, like a saw biting wood, like something mechanical chewing through the world. Nicknames followed across languages and front lines. Hitler's buzz saw, the linoleum ripper, the bone saw. Even German soldiers had their own quiet names for it. because everyone understood what it meant when a weapon stops sounding human. By mid-war, MG-42s spread across every front, and German infantry tactics bent around it. While Allied doctrine treated machine guns as support for riflemen, German squads treated riflemen as support for the machine gun. Carry ammunition. Protect the crew. Keep it firing. Because one MG-42, placed correctly, could dominate open ground for hundreds of meters. And at Omaha Beach, open ground was the entire battlefield. In WN-62, the gunner fired in controlled bursts, 6 to 8 rounds, sweeping the surf line where men struggled through water. When the barrel overheated, he changed it. When ammunition ran low, more boxes arrived from inside the bunker. Hours passed. The American assault stalled. Men pinned behind obstacles, behind bodies, behind inches of sand that felt like armor, because it was all they had. Later, the gunner would say something that appears in many war memories, spoken by men who did things they can't live with. At some point, he stopped seeing men. He saw shapes, targets, movement. Because the human mind has limits, and the MG-42 exceeded them. How many casualties came from that one position is debated. Numbers blur on beaches. Some claims are too high to verify. But what isn't debated is this. MG-42 positions turned Omaha into a grinder. And the weapons effect did not end in 1945. Because the MG-42 became a blueprint. After the war, the world didn't just study it. They copied its philosophy. The American M60 drew inspiration from its feed concepts and manufacturing thinking. The Belgian FNMAG, adopted by the US as the M240, emerged in a world where the MG-42 had already proven what a general-purpose machine gun should be. Switzerland refined it. Austria extended it. Yugoslavia produced it. West Germany rebuilt it. And in 1968, the Bundeswehr standardized the MG3, a modern MG 42-chambered for NATO ammunition, still stamped, still roller-locked, still built on the skeleton born in a lantern factory. Parts remained interchangeable, decades apart. Different wars, same machine. The factories that made the original MG-42 are gone. The men who stamped those parts are gone. The beach is quiet now, but the design survived. In some places, it is still used because replacing it would require replacing everything around it. Mounts, training, logistics. The same old truth that made the German army want one universal gun in the first place. Technology persists when it integrates into a system. And the MG-42 integrated into war itself. The strangest part is what this story really is. It's not only about a weapon. It's about a method. The MG-42 proved something that modern warfare never forgot. If you designed for manufacturing first, if you build the system to mass produce, you can change the battlefield without inventing anything magical. One factory that made lanterns. One engineer who didn't know weapons. One simple industrial idea. Stamped steel. Faster production. Cheaper units. More guns. More bullets. More dead. That's the MRG-42's real legacy. Not the sound. Not the nickname. The lesson that wars are not only won by brilliant designs, but by the ability to build them again and again, faster than your enemy can destroy them.
And on the morning of June 6th, 1944, above Omaha Beach, that lesson screamed for 9 hours straight.